by the City Council on Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Public Safety Building. Roll call, Telchik here. Neblett.
Here.
Cunningham.
Here.
Deloso.
Here.
Kadacek.
Here.
Stockman. Here. Would y'all please stand and say pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Citizen comments on agenda items only must be signed in on sign-up sheet, limited to 2 minutes, and please state your name. All right. Consent agenda. All items marked with a single asterisk on the consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council and will be acted upon in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests them. A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on January 17, 2023. B, Secretary Treasurer's report, payment of bills, January 2023. Excuse me. Investment Officer's report, January 2023. Can I get a motion?
Motion approved.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mayor's report. Well, we're going to interview a part-time inspector to help out around here, and that will happen next week. And then also, we're going to call a special meeting for the Tiki estates for the dredging, because they're not in our dredging, and we'll have to go over some of the paperwork and a lawsuit that was created back then and see if we can't cancel that and get that back in the works. So that's my mayor's report. Alderman's report. Neblett.
Yes, just briefly, I expect to have a bid for the bridge repair by next week. Couldn't get it in time for this meeting. The matrix of specified mixes that the engineer approved versus the traffic control problem of only having one way on this island, one way off this island. It's quite a puzzle to put together. So I heard from them this morning, they'll have that. Also, I'm working with MSC Earthworks to get their updated tariff for hurricane cleanup. They have the ability to bring in heavy equipment to clean up the roads after a storm. And we put a contract together with them every year to be able to use them and access their heavy haul equipment and their machinery. That's it.
Thank you. Cunningham.
Yeah, I actually have a question for everyone. Are we ready to remove this non-functioning sign out front? Any reason not to? I think we put some money in the budget for this year to do that. So we
can
ready to pull the trigger?
We can talk about it after the meeting is off the agenda, but we can talk about it.
I don't have an objection to it.
No. Okay. All right. You got anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Deloso.
A couple things. There's been a lot of discussion on our sign ordinance and whether it's up to date or not. Everybody's talking about making changes to it. So I took a shot at updating the sign ordinance. I passed it out to everybody and I gave it to Alan for our ordinance committee to take a shot at it and see if we can get that thing updated. And especially with the business sign part of it. So we're trying to get that going. Budget-wise, we're doing very well. We get about 70 to 73% of our property taxes in. Income is doing real well. The sales tax is up. The interest collecting on our money is really up compared to what we last year. It's made a big difference there. And then the expenses are down a little bit. So all in all, we're doing very well. I have passed out the update on the dredging budget. Everybody, we spent about another $250,000 from last month, and we'll continue providing update to everybody monthly on that thing. Work with Gerald on this fee schedule update. It's a pretty simple update. We'll talk about it. The ordinance book supplements, the paper copies are available. Friends got them up in the office. If you want to stop up there and pick them up, you can update your book to match what's on the internet. And then next week we're having an audit meeting with the folks. Man, you're not going to meet with them on the 27th to working on an audit. So we can try and get that moving and get it done here pretty quick. That's it.
Thank you.
Quick question. Ray, that interest expense or income has to be more than just rate change, isn't it? But what's driving that?
It's mainly the amount of interest we're getting on our money. We were getting like, 0.1%.
Yeah.
now.
Okay. It's just substantial. I was surprised it amounted to that much.
Yeah, it's a big amount.
There's 3 million.
Either that or we underestimated.
If you look over, we have over 3 million in the bank.
Yeah.
So that's what's driving it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, county check.
No, I don't have anything but a couple text updates. They didn't move the barricades because they had enough clearance there. They were worried about trucks hitting that farm and the guys were up there working. They got enough clearance, so I don't think they're going to have to move it. And another thing, I got a call from a couple of residents right out here across the feeder road from the golf cart place. There's a pothole. A couple of residents already blew out tires in that. It's hard to see at night. You can see it in the daytime, but that has nothing to do with construction. But I called Tech Stop yesterday and so students got to fill that up. But that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Kaufman.
No report.
All right, reports and presentations, fire department.
January 2023, we had a total of 21 calls. 6 of them were medical, 4 of them were lift assist, 4 motor vehicle accidents, 3 minor fires, and those 3 minor fires were 2 vehicle fires and 1 grass fire. We had 2 mutual aids out to Body Vista, 2 canceled routes. Also, our new squad truck came in on the 2nd of February. We ordered that roughly 14 months ago, and with the delay, obviously, and everything, we finally got it in. That was obviously done prior to us even thinking about buying a new engine. And we finally also received our money for our air packs, which we already purchased several months ago. We finally received our money from FEMA to actually pay the bill. And also, one other thing I'd like to add, I just got a phone call earlier today from Gauss County Health District. They're going to be giving us some Narcan, which we will be also supplying to the police department and training them how to use it. It's a nasal spray, so in case anybody does overdose on any kind of opioid, PD can give it to them, and or obviously when we get there, we can also give it to them. And they're going to be providing us with several boxes of Narcan roughly on Friday. So.
All right, thank you. Police report.
Calls for the month of January, we had 2 alarm calls, 3 animal strays, 8 agencies assist, 3 citizens assist, 1 code enforcement violation, 1 dead on scene, 1 escort, 4 fire EMS, 1 lying down, 1 loud music, 1 stranded motorist, 1 suspicious person, 1 theft, 7 traffic stop citations, 4 traffic warnings, 2 violations of city ordinance, 1 record check, a total of 42 calls.
Thank you. Building inspector's report.
January 2023, 11 new homes currently under construction, 1 new permit, 1 new house plan submitted for review. We have issued 60 permits and closed 52. Reclass 1 for review and 1 was recorded. Registered and paid for February continuing education class for inspector's license. Also attended a FEMA-sponsored flood insurance meeting in Kima. Ordinance reviews with the committee and Ray, updating the fee schedule, received ordinance book update pages. Business license renewal sent out and collections underway. LPG renewals sent out and collection underway. Marina plan review for the 8 villas continue. There's going to be a lot of discussion there for some reason. Non-compliance ordinance issues, 3 violation ordinance notices, 2 citations issued, 6 red tags, 12 site reviews, 5 by complaint. Efforts continue. Ordinance violations of standard non-compliant conditions. And then there was a letter sent out. We sent a response, or beginning the process. Tiki published a letter that went out in the water bill and contained information about signs that was misleading. So I've been getting a lot of calls about, signs for personal issues that we don't issue permits for. So we're responded to that. Of course, collecting of fees and applications continue with Steve Hoffman, Bill Robinson, and Jim Falk. They have had 2 representatives to sign in when we do plans. The rest of the business as usual.
Thank you. Ordinance review committee.
Yeah, we have one thing, fishing like ordinance to discuss tonight. It's on the agenda, and then we'll look over this of the signed ordinance that Ray provided us as well. And then the vacant lot and residential lot parking ordinance has been turned over to planning and zoning, so we'll be having a three meetings on that and give us a recommendation at a later time. That's all I got. And that's Alan.
Well, Alan,
Present.
emergency management report, would you come up here in the front, please?
Sorry. Good evening, everybody. Still working on Hurricane Prep for 2023. The application for certification from the state went to warning coordination. Half the class, the other half got delayed due to the tornadoes in Pasadena because the National Weather Service was holding the clouds. So that was an interesting day. Attended an educational meeting with the school districts. We have two school districts and Tiki. So a meeting with them through the county. Attended the public information officers class up in Houston. And did a hazard mitigation town hall meeting with Tina last week. Things going on. March got Galveston County Partners meeting on the 1st, and the Houston Galveston area PIO meeting on the county partners. That's it.
Thank you. Animal control report is in the packet. General business and action items. A, Rhonda Gregg Hurst, project director with Atkins North America, is in the audience, and she's going to give us an update on the dredging. And we also have Tim, which is the contractor for us. So, Rhonda, would you stand up and take over?
Sure. Actually, I should just let Tim, but it's okay. So we've been having some weather, and Tim has maintained a safe work environment, and he should be commended for that. We've had 60-mile-an-hour winds, and he doesn't have small equipment out there. So he has been tucking and running. The wind is either coming from the southeast blowing him in or from the northeast blowing him out. And we're very, very pleased with his safety record and the fact that he's watching the weather and he's preparing. It doesn't make for a smooth construction project, but it is what it is. We just had a winter, so very commendable. Secondly, he has placed more than half of the filter cloth and the bedding stone around the berm. So, and that's mechanically placing rock. So he's more than halfway around 1,400 linear feet. He has the armor stone around a third of the berm and should have the rest of that to match the bedding stone in this week. And then he'll be finishing the second half of it. That's all going smoothly. It's not sinking. We've only had one soft spot. It's in the opposite corner of where the soft spot was when we did it 10 years ago. And we knew that was tricky. It was the area that's taken the most rock, and it's the, if we're facing it this direction, it's your right-hand side where it attaches to the old structure. Really soft there, but work through that. He's going to be placing the pipe for the pump into the BUDM mid-March and hoping to start dredging shortly thereafter. And if all the weather is holding, he's going to have the berm wrapped up this month. We'll be starting to pull the material out of the BUDM and stacking it to build the extra height we need on that berm. Wants to let the rock sit for a couple of days, just let things settle. But so far, nothing has settled out. So we're doing pretty good. Any questions?
I got, there's a low tide, how's that affected things?
Even worse. It's just,
That makes it even worse.
he's stranded at that point.
Right.
So we've got lots of things sitting on dry land. It's just
I've
been
seen
crazy.
extremely low tide this year.
More than 3.5 feet.
Right.
So this has been quite a winter this time. But first of all, safety is the biggest thing, and that's a lot of equipment out there to have rolling around in these kind of storms. So,
I have one.
yes,
Okay, so when we start dredging, we are gonna start dredging
Yes.
up here,
yes,
at this section up here.
yes.
Okay, so you're gonna dredge, build a wall, and then dredge that section first.
And I forgot, I went, and inspected materials. Building Products Plus has been gracious enough to store, Mr. Shirley's materials and beautiful piles. There's a third of them in Houston, the other 2/3 are in Florida. All of the stainless is there, all of the lumber is there. We've been working with him, bringing me on his pay app probably tomorrow for materials. And then as soon as he ships the rest of the piles over, they'll truck them over. We'll get him ready with the rest of the piles, but everything is in place. So he's ready to roll. When you had asked me a question about the barges that were out there before we got started, and those are pulling a pipeline.
Yeah, I found that out.
So, yeah.
Rhonda, are both these maps, I know they're different, but do they both show the same thing, just in a different way? Or is there one map we should look at more than another? Because I don't never know which one to look at.
Oh, that's just dredge. I mean, that's just survey. This is,
This is it. Okay, perfect. Thanks.
any other questions? Cannot beat having a good contractor. I just can't tell you. Very good.
All right, thank you. Pete?
Well, if possible, when we have this Tiki Culver State dredge meeting, special meeting, if you can make that, that would be helpful.
No, no.
Thank you, Ron.
Just let me know when I'm out of town, the 8th through the 11th.
Okay.
Well, now we know when to schedule.
Yeah, I should have kept that card in the pocket.
Okay. B, discuss and possible action on the bulkhead status update from Emily Hung, attorney for HSD Holdings, LP, owners of the marina property. And I get a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
All right, great. So I did hear from Bill Hayes, and they are using Seahorse Construction as the bulkhead company. Seahouse Construction, I'm sorry, is going to be their contractor for the bulkhead. All right?
And what did it say in here, 90 days?
Well, they said 60 days to get all the material,
Right.
and
So
then
that's-
90 days to do the job, so that puts.
So mid-April would be the 60 days from this letter.
Yeah, so it'll be about the end of July, is what he's shooting for to get the bulkhead in.
They'll be moving material in 90 days. They'll be working in 90 days.
He said he would have a contractor by February 13th, which sounds like he does, so that's one step in the right direction.
I have a question, maybe it's for John, but based upon his response to other letters, is it within our purview to ask for proof of a contractor and proof of financing?
Sure, you can ask for anything.
I know, but, okay,
Yeah, there's no problem about asking for it.
okay.
But I'm not sure what we do if they don't provide it.
Well, that would go to the other letter, right, that we wrote to them, for what the fine is based on when they pulled the permit, how much per day.
Right. And this February 8th letter is their response to that.
I understand. So do we want to respond to that and ask for proof so we can make sure that we're not sending another letter wondering why there's a delay again?
I mean, it's up to you guys. I mean, I'm happy to write any kind of letter you want.
Please write it.
Okay, so I'm gonna write the letter more specifically.
Based on what I read, they responded and they told us that they are gonna hire a contractor on February 13th. And Goldie said they had Seahouse Construction, but we don't have any proof, that's what they have, and that, they may or may not have that. And then they said they were gonna have financing secured by February 7th. So they've given us firm dates on two things that are pretty important for that project to move forward. My question was, should we ask for proof of that to make sure that it's.
So I'll send them a letter saying you told us you'd have this by this date. Can you report to us what the status is and show us some kind of documentation that it's happened?
I would
That's what you're talking about?
Yes, because if we're looking at mid-April as the date that we think that they're gonna begin, the material will be delivered. If they don't have these things, I think we can assume that mid-April's not gonna happen, and then we kind of know where we stand. Is that right? Y'all agree with that?
Yeah.
Should we just ask them to confirm those dates now that the contractor's in place? That, as we read the attorney's letter, by mid-April, supply should be ordered and work should be started, completed by the end of July. Should we be that specific?
I mean, we could.
Yeah, complete should be.
But it's only gonna be completed if they A, have a contractor, and B, have financing, and they said they do. So I feel like if we don't ask, then we could be talking about a delay again.
I'll do that.
Don't hurt that, ain't
So a little better.
Yeah, and I agree.
Go ahead, Steve.
I agree with that, and I'd come up with a list of, to add on to what Gary was saying. One is provide Olson & Olson a copy, or just the name of the city, who the lender is. Same thing with the bulkhead contractor. Now, he texted Goldie or called Goldie and told him this, but, we've been hearing, this stuff for 2 years, so,
We have a text is what he's saying, so we'll save that as part of it.
right. But, you listen right here, this is from the Chronicle 2 years ago. Legend Communities is in the final stages of design and has begun obtaining building permits. That's from the CEO of Legends. So that's why we have to ask these questions. I mean, I understand, and they were specific in their letter saying, we want details. I don't want you to tell me what you're doing. I want you to show me what you're doing. So to add on to what Gary's saying, they have this alternate plan. I would like a copy. The village to get a copy, Darryl get a copy from the Corps of Engineers on this alternate plan to see if the solution is permissible with the Corps of Engineers. We don't have anything on that. The name of the city of the lender, the name of the city of the bulkhead contractor, and provide to Olson & Olson and also to the village sector the type of material that's being used, because that's changed multiple times. I don't know what they're using right now. And the last thing is provide information to the village from a registered professional marine engineer or equivalent showing that the bulkhead material has been approved by a registered engineer. We don't know any of that.
We have specified allowable bulkhead material though, right?
What's that?
We have specified allowed material for bulkhead.
Correct, we have,
So
but
they don't have to get an engineer to sign off if they're using one of our approved methods, do they?
they're, how do you say, not the material, but the material, there's a size and a thickness, there's different specs that an engineer is going to require. How the tiebacks are done, that's what I'm getting at on that, so.
But you're right about the ordinance.
Yeah, and the ordinance says.
You don't need a separate engineer.
But I'm all for asking for the contract, that's good. I don't know if we can legally ask them for their lender information, but John can advise us who they are or what, something.
Yeah.
We can ask again,
Yeah.
whether or not what their response.
Do we have a valid permit for that? No.
That is, from what I'm hearing, it's changed.
Yeah, so
We had a permit.
It expired.
Yeah, we had a permit, hold on. We had a permit, they did pull a permit, but it has expired and the material has changed from what they were originally gonna use.
So,
But
yeah.
at one time they had a permit,
Yeah,
but it's
I
expired now.
remind them of that in the letter, that their permit is expired, and we encourage them to submit a renewed permit application describing the details of their planned bulkhead that would cover Steve's concerns about the materials construction and the revision.
Who is USACE? Corps of Engineers. I thought so. So do we need to add alternate solution as per your request?
That would be in the building permit request though, right?
So I'm gonna be telling them that they don't have a permit, they need to start that process over again too, right?
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I
Yeah,
think
they're getting the permit
You agree with
application,
that?
just tell them,
It's
listen,
expired?
go out, get a great business, right here. Yeah, send me a contract and let's get working on that permit.
So I think what we need to do is on this, so Steve has mentioned some things, Gary has mentioned some things, so why don't we write them down and,
I can email them to Jim.
and let's email everything. We'll run it through, email it. You can email it through the office and we'll run it through proper channels to John. So put both of y'all questions together, email it to Brandy, and then we'll email it over to Olson & Olson. And then that way we'll have, the office will be involved in it.
Okay.
All right.
Their alternate plan is to be able to put the bulkhead in from land. They had planned on doing it from the water side. And that got too complicated. Now they're doing it from the land, and they're also gonna lose some territory when they do that.
They were having Corps of Engineer problems that they were gonna have to request, variances if they done it from the water. If they do it from the land, it's a different story. So, all right, let's get take action on this. Gary, you started, so let's go ahead and make a motion what we're going to do with this. And then all we have to do is say on there that all the questions y'all have will be emailed to the attorney. That's all we have to say.
I make a motion, we send a letter to the developer, is that ever sent it to? Yep. With the questions given to him by the aldermen that have questions.
All right, we have a motion
I'll second.
by Gary Coffin, second by Hunter. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. C, announce Hank Dungy, County Treasurer, in attendance to discuss Resolution 2-2302 in support of violation of the Office of County Treasurer and possible action by the board.
Motion to discuss?
Hank?
Good evening. Thank y'all for having me tonight. After spending 7 years on League City Council and visiting almost every council in the county, I like the way that y'all conduct business. Y'all seem to be very efficient with your time. So kudos to you. My name is Hank Doogie. I am the elected county treasurer here in Galveston County. As many of you probably remember, I ran very openly and transparently on my desire to eliminate the elected treasurer's office to save the county taxpayers money and to streamline some of the duties and make our tax dollars a little bit safer. So part of that process is having the state legislature put the issue of eliminating the office on a ballot for voters. In order to get the legislature to do anything, it takes almost an act of God, which an act of God in this sense is getting all the cities to sign on a resolution of support. And then in November, the voters will get to decide if they want to eliminate me or not. Just a little bit of backstory. The county treasurer gets paid $120,000 a year. My wife and I decided not to take the salary. We ran because we thought the office itself was a waste. So we figured it would be a good token of our sincerity by not taking the salary. This year, my office went from 8 people previously to 4 people currently. They're still doing all the same work. I'd imagine we save about $300,000 this year. And once my office is eliminated, those duties get dispersed to other existing full-time offices within the county. So the duties will continue to get done, just at a cost savings to folks. 9 other counties in the state of Texas have already eliminated their treasurer. In 1996, the state of Texas eliminated the state treasurer's office. There's a number of elected offices that have come and gone throughout the years. I heard from a fellow in Travis County a couple weeks ago that they used to have a elected inspector of hides and animals, and they had it up until 2012 when someone asked, why the heck are we still paying this elected official to go and inspect hides and animals? So that's kind of where we are today. I would appreciate your support of this item. I have 10 other cities that have already passed it. Y'all are on the agenda tonight. I have Galveston on later this week, and then Texas City will be on first week of March. So I think we might be able to get all 13 cities, which to get all 13 cities in the county to do anything is pretty exciting. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but I know y'all been efficient so far tonight, so I don't want to belabor something that doesn't need belaboring.
All right. Takes a constitutional amendment, is that why there's an
Yeah,
election?
so they don't make it easy to eliminate government, is what I found. So because county governments are a subdivision of the state, it's technically a state elected office, so it has to be done through a constitutional amendment. So Mays Middleton is our local senator, Greg Bonin is our local representative in the north part of the county. Both of them are filing the bills. And then the legislature will have to vote to put it on a ballot for us in November, and then the voters will get the final say. So
That's a statewide vote then.
it's a statewide vote conditional on the vote of Galveston County. So if the state of Texas voters say yes, like they have every other time it's been on a ballot, and Galveston County said no, which would be surprising, it would fail. So the state of Texas voters and Galveston County have to vote yes in order for it to go through.
So he needs our 30.
Yeah.
So I need to get a motion.
And Hank, you didn't say to make the point the commissioners wanted to eliminate this position.
Yeah,
So
Galveston County Commissioners
Yeah.
Court, thank you, Alderman. Yeah, they're unanimous in support of this, so this isn't even a partisan issue. We have great local support, yeah, so thank you. Yeah, the Commissioners Court, they're the ones who set policy at the county level, and they voted twice now unanimously to push this through.
What's the downside of doing this?
So my people who are against it would say the elected treasurer offers another level of checks and balances on the county finances, which I would say in some of the small counties in Texas where the treasurer is the only finance official, they basically function as the CFO. That might make sense. In Galveston County, we have a CFO who is appointed and hired by the Commissioners Court. We have a purchasing agent who's appointed by a board of district judges and Commissioners Court. We have an internal auditor who's appointed by the district judges, and then we hire an external auditor every year to go over and check everyone's books. So the treasurer's basically right now the fifth check, and I think we could do better with 4. In 2018, the county lost $525,000 to a scam, and I think that's because we had too many cooks in the kitchen. So when I say streamlining things will make it safer, I really do think by dispersing these duties from a part-time elected official to full-time finance professionals, we'll have a better service in that regard.
You can be commended on running on your platform and walking the talk, so congratulations on that.
And one more note, my wife and I are expecting our first kid this summer.
Well,
We're
congratulations.
excited about it. My wife said, Hank, you better get it done this year because I'm tired of you working for free. So thank you for your help.
All right, let me get a motion.
I can take a stab at this thing if you want. Make a motion that we approve resolution 02-2302 by the city council of the village of Tiki, Allen, Texas, in support of the abolishment of the office of county treasurer in Galveston County. I think that's what we need.
Okay, we have a motion by Ray. Can I get, we have a second by Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hank.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the child.
Yes.
Thank you. I've heard once you have a kid, you have a lot more time on your hands. Did I hear that
Congratulations
right?
on working free.
Yeah.
Good practice. When they ask you what you did this week, say I rode around the county trying to get fired by everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hank. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. D, discuss and take possible action on draft or outdoor lighting restrictions. Need a motion to discuss.
I'll make a motion to discuss. So this lighting thing, I think we discussed a little bit before, and Alan sat down and come up with this, and we actually, after I read the first thing, I sent him a copy of the city of Galveston's, and we actually implemented a little bit of city of Galveston stuff in here as well. I just wanted to get everyone's thought. This is not something that has to take possible action, but actually it was just to discuss tonight, just to get everybody's thoughts on it, see if it's something we want to move forward with. My thoughts, talking to Daryl and stuff is that, I've been out here 33 years and never had an issue with it. City of Galveston, the way they handle it, we mentioned before, is, they get the neighbors to work the problem out amongst themselves, and, they've never ever written a citation on it. And I don't think we ever, had issues with it in the past. I know, I've had issues with it and talked to the neighbor, and they gladly, fix the problem. So, the downside to that is if you ever have that one neighbor, that wants to be a jerk or whatever you want to call them, if you don't adopt anything, you don't have nothing to, stand on. So, just want to get everybody else's thoughts on it and see what they think.
Well, I have one thing to say about it. The security lights, which I understand this will very seldom be used except unless we have one person that's not willing to cooperate with this. But security lighting, it says has to go off at 11 p.m. But under circumstances means prevent continuous illumination. Well, the deal of a security light is to have continuous illumination. So I don't know about that one in there, that you should turn your security lights off. They're not in the water. They're not on I mean, I have them on the dock facing the house. In their motion, they come on and go off, but
Yeah.
if they go off at 1 o'clock, and they stay on for an hour or so, it's not bothering anybody. And then the outside lights on the house, I leave them on. And that's a security light. I don't know about the 11 o'clock and the security deal in here, because you turn them on for security.
Right. And
But
that's
the
one
rest
thing,
of it, I don't have.
one thing Adrian mentioned to me years ago when we were having a theft problem, you know.
Yeah, and a limit of 2.
What's that?
And there's a limit of 2
Per lot.
security lights.
It's not security.
No, that's just on.
That's fishing, I don't
That's
think
just
so.
on the fishing?
Yeah,
Okay.
this one.
I think you need to take the 11 o'clock thing out.
Yeah, take the 11 o'clock thing out.
One of the biggest issues, like Alan said, is the problem of people at weekend homes leaving these 1,500-watt stadium lights on all the time. You know, even when they're not here. And they may be gone for a month and the lights burn all the time. So, that's one of the biggest issues you have out here. But like I said, you know, I don't think we're getting phone calls from other than from Bio Vista, but.
Well, we got a phone call from Bio Vista. We were blinding them on their porch.
Yeah, but, you know, as far as residents, like I said, it's worked out good in the past, you know, where we work the problems out amongst ourselves, you know. The less regulations you have, sometimes you're better, but there again, like I said, you know, if we have a problem, we have nothing to fall back on. If Daryl doesn't, or the police department, whoever enforces it, so that's the main thing, you know, we gotta think about. Like I said, this is not nothing we're voting on tonight. It can be tweaked and changed, or, you know, whatever y'all wanna do. Y'all have any different ideas on it, wanna make changes to it, or?
No, I have just a couple of comments. You didn't mention stadium lights. I think that's the big issue for a lot of people who stadium lights. You talk about overhead floodlights, I would spell out, mention the word stadium lights in there in the sentence as well. And the other thing is you're limiting the overhead floodlights to 2. That's probably gonna be a problem for a lot of people. And that could fall under security lights too, I don't know. And then you're limiting it to 2 underwater lights, and I know a lot of people have more than that. And I don't have a problem with having more than 2 underwater lights. And so, except for that, you know, I think having something written down is probably good in case you get an issue, like you say, a guy, and I've had that problem too, the guy's gone for a month and turns his stadium light on, and nobody can find him, he's gone. At least if you got something that the police can at least hang their hat on, it would help. So, you know, and take the 11 o'clock thing out of there, I would take that out of there. Except for that, I think it's fine.
Go ahead, Steve.
Couple of questions. What do we do with existing people if
Yeah.
you can't go back on existing people and say you have
That's what I was
3
fixing-
cameras?
That's what I was fixing to say. I don't know if it was John or David told me this, but, you know, if you adopt this ordinance, is it retroactive, or the people that have lights that maybe don't fit into the ordinance or grandfathered? And from what, I think it was David I asked that question to, he said, no, it's effective immediately, it goes by the ordinance. So there again, you know, you open another can of worms.
And that's inconsistent with what the other piece of paper on our desk, which is the sign, because we wrote into the signs that we're gonna grandfather anything in that doesn't, so why are we grandfathering stuff on one ordinance and not on another? It is a sticky issue, and I'm all for giving Daryl some teeth to deal with it, because a lot of us, you know, fight at work all day about stuff. We don't want to come home and fight with our neighbors. That's why we made Daryl big
We
bucks.
need to probably grandfather this thing for the people that have lights. We're not gonna get them to take stuff.
No, you can't.
Yeah, and then specify though that the grandfathering only does not survive the sale of the property, right? 'Cause that's a whole nother thing. Just like we did on short-term rentals, or our predecessor.
How do you keep track of that if you grandfather? How do you keep track of who's
Make a list,
grandfathered?
drive around one night. make a
Unless
list.
somebody
Well, you can
complains.
use it as an
you know,
enforcement tool, have them prove they had it before they.
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
see?
Okay.
So it gets into that.
So I guess I got a little bit lost in the conversation. So are you looking for input on what to change to come
Yeah,
back
I
and
mean,
look at this
it's
again? So
nothing like,
I'd like to talk about security lights for a second. So in the front of my house, I think my builder called them sconces, right? On the side of my garages and my front door. That stays on all night. It's on a photocell, which provides me security in that area. If I sold my house, right, the new owners would have the turn that off or take
We're
them down,
gonna
right?
cancel that.
Which is nuts. Yeah, we're gonna cancel that one?
We need to
just said
cancel, that's what I'm saying, we need to
too.
cancel the security light then.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would go with Ray on the underwater lights. I think you don't wanna limit, I mean, that's not really bothering anybody, I don't
The
think.
security light thing, take the 11 o'clock thing out of there. You know.
Oh, you did say that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did get lost in the conversation.
So, you know, all in all, it's probably pretty good. We can think about it till next month, but,
One more, Steve, and this is a hard thing to do, so I don't have a good suggestion for you, but on the overhead lights, item number 2, about the middle of the sentence, says overhead floodlights of any wattage, permanent or temporary, that reflect or shine any amount of light onto an adjacent structure are prohibited. The word any, so if I have a couple lights
Yeah, we're
and it
gonna have-
shines any,
We don't wanna parade it.
I don't have a good way to, I don't have a suggestion how to change that to, but
I think, in Allen, they remember this, I think in the city of Galveston ordinance, they use, candle, that's not candle
Well,
power, but it's,
I have a few comments to go.
No,
Whenever you get around to it.
Go ahead, I'll answer that.
I try to stay away from City of Galveston, they use lumens, 0.1 lumen, or 1 lumen and 2 lumens, and the next thing you know, Daryl's out there with a lumen meter in the middle of the night, going over to all the houses. So it's better to just prescribe that, you know, there can't, essentially what it amounts to is if the neighbor across the street shines their fishing lights into your den, then you call Daryl or the police department. The way this is written, either building code or police could enforce it by writing a citation. You walk over there and sure enough, it's shining on the den. So, you know, any is an alternative to saying 1 lumen or 2 lumens. That could be softened up a little bit. The other thing
I don't know,
mentioned-
Alan, substantial is not the right word, but something more than
Well,
any.
you know what, it's just like dogs barking. And it says anybody with reasonable senses or whatever,
Yeah.
ordinary sensibilities. If I'm sitting in my den and the guy across the street from me, the canal of his fishing lights are shining on my ceiling, even just a little bit through my windows, that would annoy me.
Yeah.
It might not annoy my neighbor next door, but it would annoy me, so I should be able to call and say, they need to turn their lights down, or they put a shield on, or whatever, so that I don't have fishing lights shining in my house. That was really, the way this all started was based on overhead outdoor fishing lights. And then we wrote this to include underwater lights, and actually where it says underwater lights are encouraged, that's right from the city of Galveston's. They encourage underwater lights instead of overhead lights. And so, but and the other thing I would mention is that the number of lights, the number of overhead or underwater, is per lot. So if you have 2 lots, you could have 4 lights. If you have 4 lots, you could have 8
But if you
lights.
replat them,
No, I'm talking about currently. There are certain people that have their house sitting on 2 lots or even 3 lots. So they could have 6 lights. No problem, it's per lot. You're saying if you replat it, it becomes 1 lot?
yeah,
So,
Mm,
a less complicated
Yeah.
approach, I mean, you spent a bunch of time on this, so, Alan, you might not like hearing this, but actually, your first sentence of what you were talking about, the standard of, the nuisance standard, that if it's unreasonably annoying to the neighbors, then it's a problem. I mean, that's the most effective way to do noise ordinances. As you said, you know, if you get out there with meters and stuff, humidity and wind direction, all those kind of things can change that. The best thing is just to have a nuisance standard, and then Darryl goes out there and says, or the police chief, and says, your neighbors complained, and I'm looking at it, and I think it's unreasonable, and then you try to get them to turn them off or redirect them or whatever, but that's probably more effective than trying to go and deal, you know, minute detail of how many different lights people can have. Like, I don't think anybody's gonna complain about Gary sconces. And what you've talked about, I think it is an issue in your city, which is fishing lights, because by definition, they're on sometimes late at night, and
Well,
it can be disturbing.
The idea of the fishing lights was that they just can't be on a photo cell. You can fish all night long if you want to, as long as someone is present. If the neighbor complains and the police chief shows up, or police officer, whoever shows up at 2 in the morning,
There's a guy standing out there holding a fishing pole, more power to him, fish all night long. But it's the idea of the ones, like you said, go away for 30 days at a time and leave them on running 24/7, 1,000-watt stadium lights. You know, no matter where, unless it's literally on the outer row of houses, it's gonna somewhat bother somebody. You just almost can't leave those big lights on. And then one other thing was the city of Galveston says something about navigation and transportation, that the lights cannot affect navigation or vehicular traffic. So that's I personally know that there's some lights on the outer perimeter that blind you when you're leaving before daylight. Matter of fact, the houses aren't even occupied. The people are weekenders and they hadn't been there in 6 weeks, and their lights on all the time. And you go by there and you're navigating in a boat and it blinds you. You probably know that.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that we would like to figure out a way to target. They need to be aimed straight down in the water. A lot of them shine straight out across the bay, you know, which to me, if it's a fishing light, it ought to shine down anyway. And then one last thing is that on the security lights, the whole idea was to have them on motion sensor. There's just no real reason to have lights burning all night long, the way I see it, because if anybody walks up to your property, the motion sensors will turn the lights on. And then most motion sensors.
Yeah, but if your lights are on, they may not walk up to your property.
The other thing that's
I'll take a picture of the ranch this weekend when I go there.
Mhm.
I have dusk to dawn lights on it. I can't tell you how loomed up it is, the old saying, but I've got probably 15 exterior lights on 2 houses in the same field, and they come on all night long, and they go off all day long, all day. And I'm not gonna take them down. Of course, I'm not bothering anybody because I'm on acres upon acres, but I'm just saying, that's what I use for security lighting. When I walk outside, I wanna be able to see what's out there.
Yeah, well, one last point on that I was gonna say was that the 11 o'clock deal is just, I know the lights I have, the motion lights I have, it's an optional setting that they will come on at dark and stay on for 2 hours or 3 hours. And that's for convenience, you're coming and going, barbecuing, whatever you're doing. The lights will stay on until, it's usually by hours, like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and then shut off at whatever time. And I use mine that way, but I think the code requires lighted stairways for ingress and egress, but I don't remember if it says they have to be motion activated. I guess if you leave them on 24/7, you use the code, I don't know. But anyway, I'm just the MS Word guy. I just write the words on the page. It's up to the council to decide. We can just completely take out everything but number 1, 2, and 3, or whatever, if you just want to address fishing lights only.
I think we got a pretty good package here. We probably just need to look at it a little bit more and get more comments on it. You're on the right track.
Okay. One of the things that I don't know if I have a strong opinion, but I see quite a few houses that it's kind of a look everybody wants to have, I guess, but they'll have rope lights everywhere. There's one that has rope, I hope nobody's in this room. They have rope lights down their fence on both sides. They have them running back and forth under their house. They have them running underneath the deck. And it's a look, I guess, that people like to have that looks like a carnival or something. But that's kind of a tricky thing, because if they were my neighbor, it would be a nuisance to me. Maybe other people aren't bothered by that, but you got those?
Oh, no.
I got them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
I have the real deal.
You know, that's a lot. Actually, it's a lot of lights, and most of them are not LED, so they're light.
That's a fashion mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a suggestion, if it's all right with everybody. Personally, I'm like Ray, whatever he's got in there, except for the underwater lights and the security lights, I'm okay with. But if there's anybody else that's got any other suggestions to it, why don't we bring it back? Why don't we get a hold of Alan?
Mm-hmm.
Each alderman think what you want. Get a hold of Alan. He's the head of the committee, and let's let him rewrite that. And then Steve is our liaison for that committee. And then Steve will go over it with Alan.
Okay.
And I don't think, if you want to just write on here, general comments, but you don't need to wordsmith all those emergency for and all those words. Just tell me, I disagree that we should have 4 lights per lot or whatever, and then I can dress it up in word.
Okay. Any more discussion on this?
No? Good suggestion.
All right.
Make a motion, we do that. What you
Okay.
said.
Ray, you want to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion, would go just recommended that the board provide comments to Alan on what they wanted to put or change on the proposal for the light ordinance, and then we'll take it bring it back to the board next month, try and get it resolved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Discuss and take possible action on website posting policy. I need a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
All right, you gonna take off?
I can.
Go ahead.
So, I guess it was a November meeting. We talked about this. We took your comments. Steve and I wordsmithed this a little bit. Ran it by John's office to make sure everything looked good from a legal standpoint, and they approved it. So what you have in front of you is the final version that Steve and I have come up with for the website policy. Most of the comments last time were around what type of events could be on the calendar. The calendar of events seemed to get the most questions. We've tried to define that, which is what you all asked us to do. I also want to just remind you that this was set up, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, when we started this, the calendar was designed to be a community calendar, not a official village calendar. So if you have a community calendar, you have to look at events that are going on in the community so that so a resident has a place to go look and see, whether it's a social or a golf cart rally or whatever, a place to go see where those events are. So I think that's where most of the comments at the previous meeting came from. So we tried to take a stab at defining those types of things and also putting a sentence in there about offensive or sexual in nature or a personal matter would not be allowed on the site. So that's mostly what we changed since the last discussion. Steve, did I miss anything?
No. I just had also a couple of comments. One is the personal thing, I think, we need to police that. But the thing I really did want
Need to do what with it, Ray?
It's a personal thing.
What personal?
I mean, not having personal advertisement.
Yeah, it says that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I would like to see is that all the postings get approved by one of the two committee members before, because otherwise anybody can just, who's the policeman on this thing? Who decides what goes on? I'd like to have it either you.
It's the
or-
committee.
Yes, it's both of us.
I thought that was,
Okay.
Y'all are the assigned committee.
yeah.
So the two Steves are the assigned committees, and they're the ones that's gonna review
Yeah,
it.
all postings must be approved by the committee, so before they come on, yeah.
It's simply-
I think it says that in here somewhere.
I didn't see it. But anyway, that's, we're gonna put it as number 4 under general rules. That, they're the police, they're the traffic cop on this thing. And that was my only comment, really. That and,
And you're talking about for non-governmental postings,
That's correct.
because again,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
yeah.
things you have to
the
post.
stuff that goes on this thing, yeah.
Not to use the city's website as an advertising place for garage sales and things like that. There may be logistic issues about who does this and that. I know, City Secretary has some concerns about this all being dumped on her. So,
Well, Vicky and Brandy, their main concern is that people are just gonna call up there and ask
Yeah.
them for information on it. So, we put in there that you have to have a contact, a name and a phone number on everything you post, so that
Okay.
someone can call them. And I asked them both, I said, look, let's give it a shot. If it looks like, keep records of it. If people bugging
Yeah.
a lot on this thing, then we'll bring it back to the board and think about it again.
Yeah.
But, until we actually see that there's a big problem.
We can devise a simple form that when somebody inquires, it could be sent to them, and then they can send it to Steve or I for approval, so that the staff doesn't have to spend a lot of time.
Yeah, because when it was originally set up and it's the stuff that's on there right now, there's a few things like, I think there, maybe golf cart parades or, like the garden clubs on there every month, their monthly meeting. If you click on that box, there's another drop-down box where you can put a contact person and a phone number for them in there. We just didn't do that. We were just trying to get the calendar out. And when those events get closer, or we sit down and get a contact person, because some of it didn't have exact start times or anything like that. So as all that information comes out, we can add that stuff to it later at any time. So.
Well,
The only thing that I have,
all the information before we post that, then that way that alleviates us being called constantly.
yeah, just want to put a phone number, tell them, don't call the city, this is a social calendar, and call, and put on there, do not call the city, because it just clogs up what we have.
I would think the more information we put on contact for the specific event should reduce the amount of calls
Yeah.
to the city, right?
All right.
We need to have a name and a contact number.
Ray, I have a question back to your point about approval. On number 3, it says the committee may direct. If we change that to the committee will direct,
Which one do you want?
number 3 on the first page,
Let's see.
would that get it, your concern about approval? We could even put will direct and approve.
Yeah, that's good. Put that on there, that's good. That'd be fine. I just don't want every time Dick and Harry go in and stick something on without somebody looking at it, reviewing it, Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, the only people that can post on the radio is the people that are assigned to it.
Motion by Steve Cunningham, second.
Second. Gary Kaufman.
Gary Kaufman, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, discuss and take possible action to approve replats of lots 82, 80, and 83R, 206 Bamaku Bend, owner Lauren Childress. Daryl, is everything in order?
Everything's in order.
Did they start this before they applied, or did they apply and just get started?
No, there's a bulkhead permit over there, they tore the lot up, but the contractor
Okay.
did jump the gun a little bit, tore out some concrete over there. but-
Okay.
Okay. Motion to approve,
Make a motion to approve.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. G, discuss and take possible action to approve ordinance 02-23-03, amending fee schedule, appendix A. Y'all have it in your package, is the fee schedule for the city.
Make a motion to discuss. Yeah,
Motion to discuss.
Let me just summarize this. What we're doing here is not changing any of the fees or anything, we're just kind of cleaning it up and adding some stuff that accidentally got left off. The first thing we're doing is on the, referencing the animal things in there, we do not collect fees for animals, we don't register dogs and cats and so on, and we don't update those annually, so this proposal is taking all that out of there, but we haven't done that in years. The second part of this is the disarm check, pavilion rental, and the food truck. It's in there twice. We have it in both the building and construction and also under administration. But we're just taking it out of the building and construction section and leaving it under administration where it belongs. The next one we're adding under chapter 6, the building and construction, the contractor registration and the red tag violation. Somehow or other that got left out. It was in there originally, and so we just making sure to put it back in. I thought it just didn't end up in there again. And Daryl caught that. And then the last thing on the page here is that $50 a month, all we're doing is moving it down on the repair and additions and not on the new house. To make it the way it is, actually is. And I think that was it. Yeah, that was all. So it's just kind of a cleanup of our permit fees, so we're not changing any of the fees or anything.
And did you say the animal piece you're taking out?
Taking out,
Yeah.
we're gonna remove all that.
Make a motion to approve.
So, just a second, so what's in the packet that there's not a version that shows the changes you're making, because the animal stuff is in here?
It says delete at the top of that.
Oh, yeah, right there, John. I missed it too. It says delete.
Okay.
I missed that too.
John doesn't like to have the fault.
I mean, I just,
Yeah, they could vote this.
yeah.
Okay.
I still don't like it anyway. But okay, it says delete the following.
And then they had it following.
Yeah, and then the $50 a month thing is, it's just recognizing that it's already, it doesn't need to be said there twice.
You know, it's in the wrong place. It was at the top. We're taking it out of the first line, moving it down. Under repairs. It was under
I
new
mean,
house.
right now, I mean, this says permit type, electrical, plumbing, new house, $150. That's still in there, right? That's supposed to be there? And then it says good for 1 year. And then, so fee or charge for extension, I guess didn't make any sense because it says 150 to the left. Is that what's going on here?
No, the extension is only for repair and additions. It needs to drop down. It was in the wrong spot
So there is no extension for electrical and plumbing?
For a new home.
for a new house. Totally.
So if it goes beyond a year on a new home, you have to submit a new permit, and it's $150.
No, plumbing, electrical, and AC does not.
Doesn't expire.
They're at the discretion of the builder. It's not their fault, but the builder's taking too long. So it's really, they pay a one-time fee, and hopefully that carries the project.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Okay, but that's the intention. I think that's reflected here, so.
Good with it.
I'm okay with it. I wouldn't do it that way, but I'm okay with it.
Second. All right, I need a motion.
Yeah, we got a motion.
You got a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Discuss and take action to approve Galveston County Mosquito Control District aerial spraying resolution.
Motion approved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Citizen comments. Please state your name, comment limited to 2 minutes.
Get that stopwatch out. Alan Scott, no, I was just, I didn't have anything better to do, so I read the letter from the attorney from the marina. And I mean, it seems completely obvious, but there's nothing in there that states they're gonna tear the old bulkhead down. It says they're gonna build another one behind it. So, you know, it's another one of those questions like, do they really have a contract or not? In theory, they could come in and build a new bulkhead and then let that other bulkhead belong to the village of Tiki.
No, it's gonna belong to the Corps of Engineers, actually.
Well, that's my point, is that when they build a new one behind that one, it ought to say in there somewhere that either.
Well, their plan is, just to jump ahead a little bit, they plan on building a boardwalk out there. But then they'd have to get a Corps permit for that.
They're not gonna sell any houses if they got an old bulkhead there.
Well, that's true.
What he's talking about is who's gonna make them tear up the old one.
It's pretty pricey to tear that old
Yeah,
bulkhead
it
down.
would be.
Bulkhead, and we have that covered. We'll write it in there, Alan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other citizen
Add that
comments?
to the letter.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't register, I apologize.
You don't have to for citizen comments?
At the end,
At the end, it's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, from experience, if you publish people's phone numbers without their permission on a website, it is public information to the universe. And anyone trying to sell siding or roofing or insurance or anything else is gonna harvest all those phone numbers, and we're all gonna be plagued with them. Not that they can't find our phone numbers if they really want to, but they would have to know our name to start with. So once you start publishing names with phone numbers, you may open Pandora's box a little bit
On the calendar?
on the calendar.
Okay, thank you for that point.
And maybe it's, I'm saying, without their permission. But they would need to understand the consequences of having it out there, because it's not just for the readership of.
No, it's not.
It's for everybody.
There are people who get paid to look for that
That's
information.
correct.
Yeah.
And they do.
They do. They call me
Hey,
sometimes.
Steve, you might want to take that into consideration in your website policy.
Well, this form we're gonna put together, we can put a piece in there for them to authorize publishing their phone number or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Thank
good
you, I
idea.
appreciate
It's
that
good
very much.
insight, thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Any other citizen comment? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Second. All in favor? Thank y'all for coming.